Today is February 18th. Welcome to Big Book Daily. My name is Rob. I am an alcoholic. It is a thrill, honor, and joy to be here with you today as we journey through the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous and the 12 Steps and 12 Traditions. Today we are on Chapter 3, More About Alcoholism. We'll be reading page 38. At the 12 and 12, we're on Step 5. We'll be reading page 60. And of course, we'll read the 24 hours a day and daily reflection. So with that, hope y'all are doing well this morning, my friends. Woke up another day sober, cup of coffee in hand. Just happy to be here today. I don't know, just to do this. So let's get to the good stuff. All right, my friends. So if you recall from yesterday's reading out of the Big Book, we've been getting a couple of demonstrations of how the crux of the problem is mental for alcoholics. And we've had 3 examples. We've had the retiree, the one who quit for many, many years. And then when he retired, he brought it back out the bottle and he was dead within 4 years. And that kind of talked about the progressive illness. And then we had Jim, and we talked about how we could see right where the insanity started to take over. And he started to believe his own lie and put that whiskey in his milk. And now we're at another example, which seems pretty darn extreme, but it's the jaywalker who keeps going out there, jumping in front of cars, and nearly losing his life from this addiction to jaywalking. So let's continue this story on page 38. On through the years, this conduct continues, accompanied by his continual promises to be careful or to keep off the streets altogether. Finally, he can no longer work. His wife gets a divorce and he's held up to ridicule. He tries every known means to get the jaywalking idea out of his head. He shuts himself up in an asylum, hoping to mend his ways. But the day he comes out, he races in front of a fire engine, which breaks his back. Such a man would be crazy, wouldn't he? You may think our illustration is too ridiculous, but is it? We, who have been through the ringer, have to admit if we substituted alcoholism for jaywalking, the illustration would fit us exactly. However intelligent we may have been in other respects, where alcohol has been involved, we've been strangely insane. It's strong language, but isn't it true? Some of you are thinking, yes, what you tell us is true, but it doesn't fully apply. We admit we have some of these symptoms, but we have not gone to the extremes you fellows did. Nor are we likely to. For we understand ourselves so well after what you have told us that such things cannot happen again. We've not lost everything in life through drinking, and we certainly do not intend to. Thanks for the information. That may be true of certain non-alcoholic people who, though drinking foolishly and heavily at the present time, are able to stop or moderate because their brains and bodies have not been damaged as ours were. But the actual or potential alcoholic, with hardly an exception, will be absolutely unable to stop drinking on the basis of self-knowledge. This is a point we wish to emphasize and re-emphasize, to smash home upon our alcoholic readers, as it has been revealed to us out of bitter experience. Out of the 12 and 12, we're on Step 5. Admit it to God, to ourselves, and to another human being, the exact nature of our wrongs. Bottom of 59 and page 60. And honestly, I can't remember if I read part of page 60 before, but that's okay. Maybe I need the double dose today. So here we go, page 60. At this stage, the difficulties of trying to deal rightly with God by ourselves are twofold. Though we may be at first startled to realize that God knows all about us, we're apt to get used to that quite quickly. Somehow, being alone with God doesn't seem as embarrassing as facing up to another person. Until we actually sit down and talk aloud about what we have so long hidden, our willingness to clean house is still largely theoretical. When we are honest with another person, it confirms that we've been honest with ourselves and with God. The second difficulty is this. What comes to us alone may be garbled by our own rationalization and wishful thinking. The benefit of talking to another person is that we can get his direct comment and counsel on our situation. And there can be no doubt in our minds what the advice is. Going it alone in spiritual matters is dangerous. How many times have we heard well-intentioned people claim the guidance of God when it is all too plain they were sorely mistaken? Lacking both practice and humility, they had deluded themselves and were able to justify the most errant nonsense on the ground that this was what God had told them. It is worth noting that people of very high spiritual development almost always insist on checking with friends or spiritual advisors the guidance they feel that they've received from God. Surely then, a novice ought not to lay himself open to the chance of making foolish, perhaps tragic, blunders in this fashion. While the comment or advice of others may be by no means infallible, it is likely to be far more specific than any direct guidance we may receive while we're still so inexperienced in establishing contact with a power greater than ourselves. Our next problem will be to discover the person in whom we are to confide. "24 hours a day, February 18th. AA thought for the day. After I became an alcoholic, alcohol poisoned my love for my family and friends. It poisoned my ambition. It poisoned my self-respect. It poisoned my whole life until I met AA. My life is happier now than it has been for a long time. I don't want to commit suicide. So with the help of God and AA, I'm not going to take any more of that alcoholic poison into my system. And I'm going to keep training my mind never to even think of liquor again in any way except as poison. Do I believe that liquor will poison my life if I ever touch it again? Meditation for the day. I will link up my frail nature with the limitless divine power. I will link my life with the divine force for good in the world. It is not the passionate appeal that gains divine attention, as much as the quiet placing of the difficulty and worry in the divine hands. So I will trust God, like a child who places his tangled skein of wool in the hands of a loving parent to unravel. We please God more by our unquestioning confidence than by imploring Him for help. Prayer for the day. I pray that I may put all my difficulties in God's hands and leave them there. I pray that I may fully trust God to take care of them. Daily Reflection, February 18th. Our paths are our own. There was nothing left for us but to pick up the simple kit of spiritual tools laid at our feet. Alcoholics Anonymous, page 25. My first attempt at the steps was one of obligation and necessity, which resulted in a deep feeling of discouragement in the face of all those adverbs: courageously, completely, humbly, directly, and only. I considered Bill W. fortunate to have gone through such a major, even sensational spiritual experience. I had to discover as time went on that my path was my own. After a few 24 hours in the AA fellowship, thanks especially to the sharing of members in the meetings, I understood that everyone gradually finds his or her own pace in moving through the steps. Through progressive means, I try to live according to these suggested principles. As a result of these steps, I can say today that my attitude towards life, people, and towards anything having to do with God has been transformed and improved. All right, my friends, great stuff today. That concludes today's reading. Real quick about the big book. Once again, there was that squiggly writing on page, I think it was 38 or 39, talking about how for alcoholics, Self-knowledge itself, sorry, that was redundant. Self-knowledge itself. Self-knowledge is not enough. So do we need? Well, the big book's kind of hinted around to it, a vital spiritual experience. Well, how do I get that, Rob? Well, I got to work the steps every single day. But it's given me a closer relationship with my higher power. And it's forced me to look at some things that, some root causes that I didn't realize I had. And that kind of ties into the 12 and 12 as well. By going it alone, which I kind of did. I will say this. Now, I think I've admitted that I didn't get a sponsor. And I don't recommend this, but I didn't get a sponsor until about a year into the program. And I had a big book all that time, that year. But I'm just reading the big book and, kind of talking about a couple things that I'm learning in the meetings, which was fine. But I didn't quite understand it. I thought that reading the steps was basically doing the steps until I got to like step 4. And I didn't really understand how to do that. Or maybe I didn't even remember reading. I don't know. For whatever reason, I didn't really do an inventory for a long time. And again, I don't recommend that. If I could go back and do it over again, I would have gotten to work right away. Because that pink cloud did end for me. And now I wasn't drinking, but I was feeling everything. All the regrets or whatever. But going back to the 12 and 12, they were talking about how a different point of view can oftentimes help us see the faults and the flaws in our reasoning. And again, as I've said for the last few days, finding the right person to do this is very crucial. Somebody who's going to keep things confidential, somebody you trust, maybe somebody with a common goal and common solution to help you to be a better person and to get you to have this vital spiritual experience. But anyway, they were explaining that in the 12 and 12. And then finally, out of the 24 hours a day, admitting this to another person is truly, it's been crucial in my life. I've tried to withhold certain things, and I've tried to be the Lone Ranger, even in sobriety. Like, he doesn't need to know that part. I don't need to say this. I'll be fine. But if it keeps me up at night and I keep thinking about it, I know that I didn't do what the steps teach me to do. So finally I had to, go up to my trusted friend and tell him everything. And once again, he shares his experience. We pray about it. And I apologize. I don't know if I've done a good job saying this, but when we're doing the steps, after we do step 5, I should go right into step 6. Make sure that I'm entirely ready to have God remove all these defects of character. And then pray to God, pray to my higher power to remove these defects of character. And I love the 7-step prayer. I pray that you would have all of me, good and bad. And now remove from me every single defect of character which stands in the way of my usefulness to you and my fellows. Grant me strength as I go out from here, talking about like this day. It's a beautiful thing, But sorry, I'm rambling. Last thing I'll say is on February 18th of the 24 hours a day, I pray that I may put all my difficulties, speaking of step 7, in God's hands and leave them there. I don't know if anybody else is like me, but sometimes I'll put it in my higher power's hands and then I'll take it back. And it never works out well for me. I don't know why I do that. But I love this follow-up line. I pray that I may fully trust God to take care of them. I know I've said this a million times, but I had a really hard time forgiving myself for some of the things I've done. And I remember a friend in the fellowship once told me, he's like, Rob, you're a dad, right? I said, yes, sir. He said, how old's your son? And at the time, he was probably maybe 2 or 3. And he says, imagine seeing your son sitting on the edge of his bed, crying. You walk by and you see him. You go in there and you go, what's wrong? and your son looks you in the eyes with teary eyes and says, I hate who I am. I hate myself. How would that make you feel, being his father? And I mean, he had me, because he knew I was wrestling with self-hatred early on. He had me. And I said, I'd feel terrible. That's my son. There's nothing he could do that would make me abandon him. And then he just kind of smiled. And my friend said to me, how much more does your Heavenly Father love you? And from that moment, I started to realize, you know what? I am forgiven. I'm being made whole each and every day. I'm trying to use these spiritual tools that are laid at my feet, just like the daily reflection said. And slowly but surely, I'm living a life of serenity and peace and sobriety and freedom. And I thought sobriety was just not drinking. But guys, I have rambled on way over. I apologize for that. Hope you all have a great one today. If you are sober, I hope you know that you're a miracle. And you're giving a great gift to those around you. And you have a unique opportunity to help the next suffering alcoholic. This is Robology, but I believe we're here for a reason. It's to carry the message. That's step 12, you know? And if you're not sober today, I hope you know that you're a miracle as well. You have value, and your story is not done yet. You're worthy of recovery, and you can make that very first step toward change today. So I pray that you get the help that you need, and you don't have to do it alone. This is a we program. And as always, my friends, I don't speak on behalf of AA, NA, Al-Anon, any other sect. I am just a friend in this lifeboat of recovery, just honored to be here. Thank you so much for the emails, the comments, and just letting me know that I'm not alone. It's always exciting to read those and hear your God stories. I heard from somebody not too long ago. They were on day 4 of sobriety. And those early days, as we all know, they're tough. So congratulations on 4 days. I pray that you continue to get the help that you need, and we're here for you. But my friends, if we're given another set of 24 hours, I sincerely look forward to seeing you right back here tomorrow.